angry scenes at Tasmania's major airports today, with Ansett and Kendal flights in and out of the state this weekend cancelled because of an industrial dispute. The state government has hit out at Ansett, saying the airline had forewarning of the strike action, but failed to give sufficient notice to allow contingency plans to be put in place. And transport workers across the country are keeping a wary eye on the dispute.
On the heels of the mobile fuel contamination crisis, which grounded flights to Bass Strait Islands, Tasmania's air travellers have taken another body blow.
Any issues relating to access, of course, does have an effect on our destination. We are reliant on access. It's a very important issue.
The 48-hour strike involving all Kendal and Ansett flights in and out of Hobart and Launceston started at midnight and was sparked by a dispute over Ansett's baggage handlers. Sydney and Melbourne airports are refusing to handle Tasmanian flights.
Ansett have known since Tuesday afternoon of this week that we intended to take action. They probably could have averted that action by at least contacting the union, and we could have begun talks. That didn't happen.
An Ansett spokeswoman says the airline tried to contact as many affected passengers as possible, but although some were brought forward to travel on flights last night, many turned up today unaware their travel plans were in chaos. The state government was only advised of the dispute last night. Its efforts to provide extra services have been compromised.
We should have been aware of the issue, particularly because it's the height of our season.
The dispute looks to be heading to the Industrial Relations Commission on Monday, but has the potential to spread nationally if a satisfactory outcome can't be reached.
Fear is that if Ansett get away with this in Tasmania, then they will try and do it in other ports nationally, and that is enough to scare our members across the country.
Qantas is putting on bigger planes where possible, and Ansett is attempting to rebook passengers with its rival airline to move some of the 5,000 people whose travel plans have been disrupted. About 500 passengers have been rebooked on the Devil Cat, but not everyone can be moved. Ansett, however, has rejected an offer from the government to charter the Devil Cat at cost price to move more passengers across Bass Strait. Ansett has set up a telephone hotline for passengers who've been affected by the dispute. Travellers should call 1800 683 034. Samantha Meyer, Southern Cross News.
Tasmanian Greens Senator Bob Brown has offered a $1,000 prize as an incentive for Tasmanians to come up with environmentally focused tourism projects. The competition sparked by his anger at plans to allow helicopter landing sites in sensitive conservation areas. The state government has called for public comment on 5 potential sites for float planes and helicopters to land in World Heritage and other conservation areas. Bob Brown says the proposed flights would erode the conservation values of the areas and has thrown out a challenge to Tasmanians to come up with better ideas.
And I think that the ideas bank that's in the Tasmanian community, and particularly with people who love our natural scenery as it is, will come up with something far more imaginative than a helicopter invasion.
The 6-week competition closes on February 25th, the same day the government's public comment period ends. A man has new arms tonight after amazing transplant surgery. As he recovers from the groundbreaking operation, his medical team, co-led by an Australian scientist, is already toasting success.
For 17 hours, a team of 50 doctors and medical technicians performed what can only be described as a miracle, meticulously patching 2 donor hands onto the arms of a young Frenchman who lost his own 4 years ago when an amateur rocket exploded in his hands.
You have to remember that these transplants are done on well patients.
He's very thrilled that he's got hands, and he realises he's got a lot of work to do now himself.
Australian specialist Earl Owen again teamed with France's Jean-Michel Debenet to lead the operation. They last grabbed world headlines with the first successful hand transplant on Perthman Clint Hallam in the same French hospital 16 months ago. Hallam visited the medical team in Lyon yesterday. His continued recovery and inspiration to all.
He can bring his fingers together and he can move his fingers apart from each other, proving that the muscles of his hand, the intrinsic muscles, are working.
Doctors are tipping their latest transplant recipient will get 90% of function back in both hands.
As of tomorrow, he'll be having his fingers all flexed and his wrists flexed.
The 33-year-old patient will undergo intensive physiotherapy once the 41 joints in each arm have healed.
A 35-year-old man almost bled to death after a massive firecracker exploded in his face south of Sydney early today. He is undergoing microsurgery to save his sight.
The sleepy village of Ulladulla was awakened by the blast of illegal fireworks early this morning. A single man was flattened in the backyard of his home while lighting an imported bunger as big as a half stick of dynamite.
They're the largest crackers I've seen in a lot of years. The larger ones I haven't seen for a very long time. They have very large crackers.
And with the shortest wicks.
He was going to set off a firecracker that he had this morning sometime around 3 a.m. and it exploded. He said it had a quick fuse or something and just went off before he could get away from it.
Bleeding profusely from a right hand, missing 2 fingers, he lay in his yard, unconscious for 3 hours. When he eventually awoke, he calmly took a taxi to the district hospital. Local doctors decided to rush the patient to St George Hospital in Sydney, where there are more extensive microsurgery facilities. While doctors tonight fight to save the man's vision and the use of his injured hand, police are warning people not to let off illegal fireworks.
Meanwhile, a warning tonight to would-be arsonists that they face lengthy jail sentences. As part of a government clampdown in a stinging attack, people who deliberately light fires have been labelled stupid and destructive.
In an unusual situation, it's the state's west, not east coast, which is causing the most concern for Tasmanian firefighters in the current bushfire season. This week's blaze around Queenstown showed what hot weather and strong winds can amount to.
Much of the country is remote and difficult to get access to, so it's mainly a matter of fighting a fire where we can access it, but the rest of the time it's by and large allowed to burn.
With the fire still being investigated, the government has sent a warning to arsonists that bushfires cause major damage to Tasmania's wilderness with the potential to take people's lives.
Arson is viewed by the criminal justice system as a very serious crime and is punishable by long terms of imprisonment.
The key to overall fire awareness, says the fire service, is education.
Certainly our resources are a lot better, our training's a whole lot better, but we are steering things towards educating the community and providing information for the community as well.
Also keeping firefighters busy, a house fire near Hobart last night. The Hewan Road property at Ferntree received major damage after the fire broke out before 11 o'clock. There appears to be no suspicious circumstances. Tim Robertson, Southern Cross News.
The population of the Central Highlands increased dramatically today, with locals and visitors flocking to 2 special events. One was the annual Steps Rodeo, the other the Australian National Fly Fishing Championships.
In its 6th year, the Steps Rodeo keeps on drawing crowds from the cities, the country and even interstate. Organiser Irene Glover believes it has something to do with the setting.
Because it's in the Highlands. In the bush, they'll always come back up into the bush to these things, away from the cities and things like that.
Attractions include traditional rodeo events and fairground amusements. But if you think it's only about bull riding and steer wrestling, think again. For canine patrons, there's the controversial Jack Russell race. Today's competitors began with a bit of foul play but eventually got down to business. And then there's the highly competitive sheep poo shoveling contest, with entrants racing against the clock to fill a bin with manure. If you can move fast and remember to fill your shovel properly, this could be your sport. Organisers saying it takes all kinds.
It doesn't matter where they're town or where they come from, they're all competing in it. It's just a bit of fun.
Meanwhile, Tasmania has been hosting the Australian National Fly Fishing Championships. Fly fishers from all over the country spent the past 2 days at various locations competing for positions on the Australian team. Kylie Skipper, Southern Cross News.
A break coming up on Southern Cross Nightly News. Then more Aussie help for East Timor and a benchmark ruling for the perpetrators of so-called ethnic cleansing.
Our kids with cerebral palsy need a helping hand. Help raise $50,000 and see the Premier get the snip. Be watching Jumanji when we'll cross to the Derwent Entertainment Centre for a night of charity. Please pledge your supports.
The National Automobile Museum of Tasmania is open every day, where you'll find one of Australia's most significant collections of classic and contemporary cars and motorbikes, spanning over 80 years of automotive history. Come in soon to see their summer display, a look at some of the icons of Tasmanian motorsport, the cars, the bikes and the people who made them famous, with over 15 special exhibits. And don't pass by their outstanding gift shop. Now is a great time to visit the National Automobile Museum of Tasmania, 86 Simitier Street.
What do you say to a praise? What would you say to a hot buttered potato topped with sour cream, chili sauce, cheese and pineapple? A taste of the Caribbean. I'd say yes, please.
Alan's Gun Centre Prospect's huge windbreak and native tree sale is on this Friday till Sunday. There's thousands of eucalyptus, blackwood, silver birch, evergreen alders and more for only $2.95. Save $4 per tree. It's save trees at ridiculous prices at Alan's Gun Centre Prospect.
Spot this. The Vombi Motors 48-hour Super Red Spot sale is on this weekend only. With over 400 new and used vehicles way below cost, you'll save squillions. Come and spot the Red Spot sale at Vombi Motors this weekend only.
See the exciting new range of Tassie schoolwear, now manufactured by the Tasmanian Clothing Company. Summer dresses, polo shirts, sweatshirts, shorts for boys and girls, trousers, jackets, track pants, paint smocks, library bags, sporting uniforms, caps and hats. If your school or retailer doesn't stock Tassie schoolwear, then call on our friendly staff at these outlets. 47 Don Road, Devonport, 198 Wellington Street, Launceston, or call Lorraine Negus on Hobart 447 990.
Up to 5 people have been seriously injured after a single vehicle accident near Scamander on the state's east coast. The accident happened late this afternoon when a car went over an embankment. No other details are available. Now to a mercy flight to Australia for a seriously ill East Timorese girl. The teenagers touched down in Melbourne for life-saving surgery.
The smile on Zoara De Silva's face says it all. After being told she has only a few years to live, the 13-year-old now holds new hope for the future, arriving in Australia with her mother for a crucial heart operation.
I feel very happy to be here with my daughter.
She knows that this is going to make a big difference in her life, and we're very happy to be able to help.
The Ryder Cheshire Victorian Homes Foundation organised Zoara's Mercy Dash after learning of her plight in her ravaged homeland.
She's always weak, she's tired. That's because of her condition. They can't run to anywhere. They just stay inside the house. Even the militias came to their house.
The cardiac team at the Royal Children's Hospital will assess Zoara's condition on Monday, and they'll perform the life-saving operation later in the week. Zoara will then stay in Australia while she recuperates. In the meantime, Zoara is happy to marvel at the Australian way of life.
The mother hadn't seen an electric stove before, so we had to explain how the electric stove worked. Zoara had never been in a lift before.
Meanwhile, a convoy of aid worth $500,000 has just left Melbourne bound for Dili. Around 50 tonnes of vital supplies, including food, medication and 6 cars, are on their way to Townsville for shipment to the East Timor capital. The cargo collected by communities across Victoria.
There is enormous goodwill around Australia. Australian communities who have given us help with clothing, even cars, medical equipment, medications, and all these basic things are really needed on the ground in East Timor.
The aid is headed for remote areas which so far have not received any. 5 Bosnian Croats who took part in an attack on the village of Armici during the Bosnian War have been convicted of crimes against humanity. The War Crimes Tribunal gave the men sentences ranging from 6 to 25 years.
On a spring morning 7 years ago, Croat militiamen came to visit Ahmici, calling house to house and killing. Some families were machine-gunned to death, others were burned alive. More than 100 men, women and children were slaughtered. At The Hague, the day of reckoning at last. 5 Bosnian Croats were jailed this morning, convicted of war crimes.
The trial chamber sentences you, Mr. Vladimir Šantić, to 25 years imprisonment for persecution as a crime against humanity.
2 others sentenced today were brothers who had grown up in the village and then killed their neighbours. The judge said Ahmici should make us shudder with horror and shame.
One of the most vicious illustrations of man's inhumanity to man.
The men finally sentenced today are only small fry. The big fish from the Bosnian War still have to be caught. General Ratko Mladic, for example, commander of the Bosnian Serb army, wanted for genocide. His political master, Radovan Karadzic, who faces a similar indictment. And the architect of all the wars in the former Yugoslavia, the Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic, accused of crimes against humanity.
Tens of thousands of women have taken to the streets of Havana, demanding the return of Elian Gonzalez, the 6-year-old Cuban boy at the centre of an international custody battle. Since his rescue from a raft in November, the boy has been cared for by relatives in Florida, who are determined he should remain with them.
Cuban mothers marching through Havana in their tens of thousands this morning, demanding the return of Elian Gonzalez 7 weeks after he was rescued from a shipwreck off the coast of Florida. Cuba is consumed with anger over its loss of a 6-year-old boy. This is a memory of happier times, father and mother and child dancing together at Elian's 5th birthday party. Elian's mother drowned trying to flee from Castro's Cuba to her family in Miami. But his father stayed behind, loyal to Cuba and insistent that he is the boy's sole legal guardian.
The custody of that child is mine. I am his father, and what I am asking is for the child to be sent back here.
The Clinton administration has acknowledged the law is on the side of the father.
What is at issue is a father who wants his son home, and grandparents who want their grandson home. And these are bonds that should be honored.
But the pressure from Florida is intense. There's tremendous support for the American family's bid to challenge the ruling in federal court next week.
Well, a chance today for folk music enthusiasts to enjoy wide-ranging presentations as part of the Tamar Valley Folk Festival. Centred at Georgetown, it's the 9th such event, which provides a musical interlude in all corners of the town. In between the odd refreshment, patrons were able to move around the festival, listening to a variety of instruments played by the strong lineup of musicians. The festival continues with dancing into the night and more entertainment tomorrow. Well, Nick's next with sport, and Leighton Hewitt's stellar summer continuing, Nick.
It sure is, Kim. Today he has taken out his second tournament on the trot, and still with tennis closer to home, rising star Kim Clijsters wins the Tasmanian International.
The one thing they want most is their daughter back.
My little girl is gone.
The next best thing will be revenge.
I'm gonna kill him.
Jack Nicholson and Angelica Houston. For the first time, The Crossing Guard, Southern Cross Sunday.
If you want to be active or simply relaxed, there's no better place than your state forests. And it doesn't cost you a thing. So get the booklet.
If you're looking for the best value in used cars with over 500 vehicles to choose from, look no further than your Tasmanian Toyota dealers. Throughout January, Toyota dealers are having a massive used car clearance. 4-wheel drives, commercial vehicles, passenger vehicles, all makes, all models. Over 500 vehicles to clear and a huge range of used Toyotas. Because the next best thing to a new Toyota is a used Toyota. The massive used car clearance is on now at your Tasmanian Toyota dealers.
Millennium Madness starts at Bellinger's Bazaars. Animals from $1. Boogie boards $15. Pack of 3 notepads $2. 3 pairs of white socks $3. Pack of 12 toilet paper $3. And snapshots $5. Bellinger's Bazaars, all stores.
Premier Speedway #1 proudly presents the Australian Super Sedan Championship. Over 2 great nights of racing at Premier Speedway #1, Wild Highway New Norfolk, January 22nd and 23rd. Gates open at 3, racing starts at 6.
For your free guide to Ballarat, Victoria, call 1-800-648-450. the birthplace of the Australian spirit.
Good evening. First tonight, tennis, and 16-year-old Belgian Kim Clijsters has won this year's ANZ Tasmanian International in Hobart. After dropping the first set, the youngster powered her way to a 3-set victory over defending champion Chanda Rubin.
Officials were hoping for a sellout, and it came close. Thousands packed into the Domain for the final, which pitted a tour veteran against a young apprentice. Chanda Rubin quickly grabbed the stranglehold on the first, breaking 16-year-old Belgian Kim Clijsters twice to take the set 6-2. Clijsters struggling to overcome the fickle winds and a heavy dose of nerves. But she managed to turn it around in the second, the young gun's blistering power proving too much for her more experienced opponent, taking the set 6-2 and force a decider. The third also belonged to Clijsters. Both players traded blows early before the Belgian exploded into top gear, breaking Rubin in the second and sixth games to win the set, and her second Sanex WTA Tour title, 2-6, 6-2, 6-2.
Yeah, the people here are very nice. They've been really nice to me and my coach, so no, I really liked it here and I would like to come back next year.
Well, she played a great match and she came through when she needed to, and definitely has a lot of power and you know, is still young, so I'm sure she'll have a great career.
Clijsters also lined up in the doubles final with Aussie Alicia Molik, but in the first set, Italian Rita Grande and Frenchwoman Emily Loire easily took the honours 6-2. But the Molix-Clijsters combination fought their way back into the match, taking the second 6-2 and forced the match into a deciding third set. But it was the fourth seed who dominated from there, racing away with a set and to win the title 6-2, 2-6, 6-3. Rob Fairs, Southern Cross News.
Still with tennis and Leighton Hewitt's remarkable start to the year. Today he won his second straight tournament, the Sydney International. The only downside, he had to beat another Aussie to do it. Hewitt's style might not be everyone's cup of tea, but he knows all about champagne tennis. Just ask Jason Stoltenberg.
Friendships aside, the stakes too high. Jason Stoltenberg's sights set on his 5th career title. Young gun Leighton Hewitt focused on firing to number 1.
Oh, too good.
Good might be an understatement. While Stoltenberg tried his best to counter the attack, the teenager was just too slick, taking the first set 6-4. From then on, it was all Hewitt, his pace as hot as his passion, desperate to make every shot count.
What about that? I mean, goodness gracious me.
The day belonged to Hewitt, dominating 6-love in the second set, storming to the top of the world.
Game, set, match, Hewitt. Well, it was a runaway for Hewitt in the second set.
It was a closer encounter in the women's final. Defending champion Lindsay Davenport pushed to the limit by world number 10, Amelie Mauresmo. World number 2 Davenport showed glimpses of her trademark class, but it wasn't enough to counter the power-hitting Mauresmo. In straight sets, the 20-year-old Frenchwoman claiming the biggest victory of her young career. And Hewitt was back on court for another all-Aussie affair late today, chasing the doubles title with Sandon Stolle up against Mark Woodford and Todd Woodbridge.
Too good again, once there.
And in other tennis news, Mark Philippoussis' Australian Open campaign is in doubt. The Scud forced to pull out of the Colonial Classic final against Andre Agassi today. To cricket now, and Australia happy with its low-scoring win against India last night. Despite a less than impressive performance from our top order, the Aussies now in Melbourne for tomorrow's clash with Pakistan.
It was a game Glenn McGrath and Andrew Simons will remember for a long time to come.
To only go for 8 runs off 10 overs was probably the best I've ever done, and to pick up 4 wickets on the way was even better.
Pretty special feeling, like doing well for your country.
McGrath ripped through the Indian top order.
God, that's out!
Not to be outdone, Simons finished them off. Chasing a modest 101 for victory, the Aussies did it the hard way.
Srinath, the bowler, and he's got him this time.
4 wickets to Srinath, and all of a sudden an unlikely victory was looking very much otherwise as the Aussies slumped to 5 for 59.
Oh, that's got to be out. Yes, he's out, LBW. Steve Ward.
Damien Martin and Andrew Simons were living dangerously before they decided attack was the best form of defence, the Aussies home with 13 overs to spare. The Australian skipper not too concerned about his side's top-order collapse.
I think Don Bradman would have struggled on the wicket last night.
Stuart McGill is a chance to come into the side tomorrow, his fate to be decided after a pitch inspection in the morning. And a gentle reminder for anyone thinking about repeating Wednesday's shameful performance.
We'll just work with the crowd very early and make sure that they get the message straight off that we won't tolerate inappropriate behaviour.
In domestic cricket, Queensland have taken first inning points in the Pura Cup match against Tasmania in Brisbane. In reply to the Tigers' modest total of 130, the Bulls' charge was led by Clint Perrin and Jeff Foley, the home side building a commanding lead. Resuming at 3 for 81, it was slow going before the Bulls wrapped up the points. On a rain-interrupted day, the Tigers were not having much luck. Stuart Law eventually falling for 53. Clint Perrin notched his maiden first-class century as the visitors struggled to dent the Bulls' batting brigade. Queensland making themselves right at home on the new Allan Border field. Swimming now, it was just 1/100th of a second, but Victorian Matt Welsh will go down in history as the first swimmer to break a world record in the new century. Welsh reclaimed the 50 metres backstroke world short course mark after losing the crown 2 months ago.
The first world record of the 21st century had become a private ambition for Matt Welsh. Still, it was a shock when he got there.
New world record! First world record of the Y2K, and what can I say? I'm really happy.
And he was lucky Michael Klim didn't steal his thunder earlier.
And he is absolutely flying. He's 3/100ths of a second outside world time.
Klim tiring at the finish of the 100 fly to just miss his third world record in 6 weeks. At the Queensland State title, Madam Butterfly Susie O'Neill took her gold medal tally to 5 after 2 wins overnight. O'Neill swam a time of 25.96 in the 50-metre freestyle to record the 4th fastest time in Australian history. There were no signs of fatigue when she backed up for the 400 final, finishing more than 5 seconds ahead of Hayley Lewis. And no surprises in the men's 400, Grant Hackett overcoming a cold to take gold ahead of Kieran Perkins.
Yes, some amazing battles shaping up there. And Kim, that is where we leave our Saturday night sport.
Great, thanks Nick. Well, next up, Danny with the weather.
Next, part of the family. They're all very special patients. Student doctors with a difference. Vet school is next.
Shock. 40 Winks Shock Stock Take Sale is on now. Save up to $700 on 40 Winks leading bedding brands. Savings to shock you store-wide while stocks last.
With Wink, shock, 40 Winks.
Good, better, best, never let it rest. Till your good is better, and your better best.
Tasmanians drink their better, they drink it every day. Better milks, Tasmania. Better in every way. Tasmanians love their better. We drink it every day. Better milks, Tasmania. Better in every way.
Spot this. The Bombay Motors 48-hour Super Red Spot sale is on this weekend only. With over 400 new and used vehicles way below cost, you'll save squillions. Come and spot the Red Spot sale at Bombay Motors this weekend only.
Small crime leads to larger crime. One phone call can stop it in its tracks and make the bush safe. Bushwatch. If you see it, you can stop it.
We love camping in our state forests. We can take the dog and it doesn't cost us a thing. To find out the best places, get the booklet.
Tonight's weather is brought to you by Country Club Casino, where it's very rewarding to be a Federal Rewards member.
We're at the Derwent Entertainment Centre for Project M tonight, raising money for the Cerebral Palsy Association. It was a warm day around the state today, with most temperatures in the mid to high 20s. Hobart reached 20 degrees, Launceston 28, 27 in Burnie, and 23 in Devonport. There was some drizzle in the north and along the west coast today, but sunshine prevailed in most areas. Ouse had the state's maximum of 31 and Lyawina the overnight low of 9 degrees. Sheffield and Maydena reached 27, 28 in Smithton and Ross, and 17 at Port Arthur. Today's chart shows a low and associated cold front to the southeast of the state, and a large area of cloud over the Bight was associated with the low. There's also another weak front to the south of WA. And on the close-up, middle and low-level cloud across the north and central east coast was due to a moist onshore stream. Tomorrow, the front will move slightly to the east of the state. South to southeasterly winds easing to 5 to 15 knots overnight and freshening along the west coast tomorrow afternoon. A fine 19 in Hobart tomorrow after 12 overnight. Showers and the chance of a thunderstorm across the north of the state, clearing to a fine Sunday. 26 degrees for Launceston and 21 in Burnie and Devonport. The UV will reach an extreme 11 in the sunshine tomorrow. The chance of a shower or two in St Helens with 21, overnight drizzle and 21 in Swansea and a fine 21 in Stratham. Fine on Monday apart from early drizzle in the northwest and in the northeast. Drizzle in the north on Tuesday with temperatures in the low 30s across the state and patchy rain statewide on Wednesday. Fine weather in Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide, where they'll have a dry 40 degrees and the chance of a thunderstorm in Perth, Darwin and Canberra. So let's all dig deep for Project M. Just 50 grand is all it takes to get Premier Bacon to remove that moustache. Good night.
Should be good night, Danny. Stay watching for progress about Project M throughout the night. Good night.